That's different. Yeah, that's fine. Good reason why she did. That's it says there's another thing like that. All the reasons. I saw that there's a link for that one.
Yes.
And you'll never need off the track.
We got it through the next, right?
I understand.
Now, you know how.
I've been into the Miller House how many times? Oh my God. I just. There's about this wide.
No, sir. Good, great, thank you. Thank you.
No, we can absolutely.
No, thank you very much.
So they were a little.
Yes. Voice
LaGuardia, you don't always make it, very short run time. Sometimes you hit one.
You're saying that? Told the story, TV show, there's usually over the right across the beach. Not.
They're still.
No.
Well, Diana and Walker, they definitely are. Have looked into this. Recording Thanks for bringing that up.
I'm sorry.
No.
I know.
I apologize. I drove the whole school meeting, the first meeting. Yes. Forced there you go. Unreal engineering landslide. every day throughout the year. And we followed that so closely. Mary was just being. Charismatic guy.
Good evening, everyone. Could I please ask you to stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to get out of the way here in a minute. As you know, this is a presentation by Ferrari Associates for the North 60 project. Neil DeLuca, who will be our lead here this evening. And Neil, I'll let you introduce those with you tonight. After the presentation, if the board has any simple questions, they could ask them. But as you may or may not understand, this is the first in a lot of steps for this process. From here, it would go to the planning board. The public will have all the input it wants for that process moving forward. There's a lot of things to discuss. There's a long way to go. So don't feel that tonight is the end of anything. It's just the beginning. So Neil, I'll let you take over.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Neil DeLuca, consultant for Ferrari Associates and project leader for the North 60. As the supervisor said, today is just a culmination of the previous 10 years, and now the real work begins with the town and with the planning board. So in the next 50 minutes, we hope, we're going to tell you who we are, why we think the time has come for the North 60, how we're going to do it, what it is we're going to do, where exactly is it, and then specifically why Mr. Ferrari has this vision. I just need to say that he's not with us tonight. He had a death in the family in Florida. He's with us in spirit, though. Let me introduce the team. Because of the time frame, trust that you will see a lot of these folks over the next 4 and 5 months, especially your planning board. We expect to be before the board many, many, many times over the next year. We think these people are leaders in their field, and they've done projects like this in and around Westchester and the North East for a long, long time. First, Kevin Molnar, Director of Design for Ferrari Associates. Kevin is an architect. The lead planner for the job is Erica Lestier from Torty Gallis Partners out of Silver Springs, Maryland. Michael Divney, an engineer and a planner of some note in this county. If there's been a big project in the county, Mike has been involved. Same with the lady right behind him, Gina Martini, who's project manager from VHB, Planners, Architects, and Engineers, who will be the lead contact for us with your planning board for the CEQA process, which begins hopefully in a few weeks. Next to Gina are our two attorneys, Kristen Wilson and Mark Blanchard from the law firm of Blanchard Wilson. They will be working with Darius and your town on all of the zoning amendments and any kind of planning and zoning legal elements we need. They've already done most of that work with Darius. Behind them are our public relations people, Jeff Thompson, Dean Bender from Thompson and Bender. Behind Jeff is, again, another, if there's a dean of parking and traffic, he is here. Dr. John Collins. John is a professional engineer as well. For many, many years in this town, was a principal in John Meyer Consulting, and now a part of the Mazer Engineering Group, and will be our traffic expert on this job. Next to him is another old town guy, Steve Willard from Ward Carpenter, who's done our surveying, land surveying, and tree surveying. Behind Mr. Collins is project engineer Tim Allen from Bibbo Associates. Tim is a professional engineer and a named member of the firm, and he will be the project engineer. So what we're going to do today is, I think, tell you, I think we just did who we are. We think we have the financial wherewithal. Can we start the presentation maybe? Yeah, you go. So what does Westchester need to succeed in the future? We think there are three things that rise up quickly. We need smart growth. We need job creation for a diverse workforce. And we need sustainable development. And we think those three principles will guide what we're going to try to do. What's Mr. Ferrari's vision? He wants to build on Westchester's strengths. We have a highly educated and skilled workforce. I think we need to take advantage of that. There's a fast-growing bioscience and high-tech sector that seems to be taking over everywhere in this country except Westchester. We think we need to put an end to that. And we think we should take advantage of an excellent transportation system and central location. If there's a better location than the North 60 in the town of Mount Pleasant, somebody has to show it to me. We think we're ideally suited for this type of project. Ferrari Associates. Some of you have known the Ferrari family and John Ferrari for a number of years. He's been a developer in this town, stayed in this town, moved on to Fairfield County as well. He has built and owned over $2 billion worth of real estate. Office, retail, residential, industrial. And you probably know that John and his wife Brenda were the founders and the moving forces of the Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital in honor of their younger daughter Maria. One of the things you will recognize is he owns 19 Bradhurst. We'll show you in a minute. He's done the Greenwich Office Park, 450,000 square feet. He's done the Purchase Professional Park, 225,000 square feet, and of course 19 Bradhurst, which is the big steel and glass building across the spring from the medical center. We say this because we want you to know that it's not every developer that can tackle a project like this. We believe we have the financial and experiential knowledge necessary to pull off a project such as the North 60. These are some of the projects I just want to mention. Villa BXV is a new project you might not know that John has done. It's 54 high-end luxury condominiums in downtown Bronxville. Last year, it won an award for a high-end residential mid-rise development. Chieftains, 28 homes right opposite King Street on the Rybrook-Greenwich border. And, of course, the J House, which is an 86-room luxury boutique hotel in Greenwich. I mention that because we think that because of the medical center and the medical conferences they're not able to have on campus, we think that John knows how to build and operate a hotel, and we'll explain that more for your planning board. But we thought it was important to tell you he's already done it. We think now is the beginning of what we want to show you as the North 60. So I want to take up now the kind of architect of the plan, the one who took John Ferrari's vision and told us how the North 60 could be. Eric Alestia, again, a partner in Torti Gallus Partners.
Hi, how are you? It's great to be here. I'll say this is such a fantastic, wonderful project and opportunity. When John got us involved in the project, it just so much fit with sort of what we were about and what we're interested in. You'll see on the slide at the bottom, the tagline is, "As architects of a better world, we create sustainable, vibrant, mixed-use, healthy communities with a distinctive sense of place." The tagline, "Architects of a Better Community," for us is much more than just a marketing phrase. I mean, we really are committed to trying to create a better world through the things that we do. As an example, you may have heard, we have really kind of a chronic disease crisis in the United States at this time. And so I've been leading an initiative within our firm that's really about creating healthy communities, really looking at the research, recognizing that we have control over most of our health through our behavior, yet the places where we live, the design of those places and where we work has a significant impact on our behaviors. And so really looking at strategies that allow us to promote that kind of behavior and promote a greater health within the population. We've even developed a tool that allows us to compare the design of one neighborhood to the design of another neighborhood, and using that research to kind of project and see which one will have less chronic disease than the other. Another example of this is an initiative which I'm spearheading, which is about really looking at hospitals and something called hospital-oriented development. So you can see that there's a hospital here, so there's a real tight fit with this. The interesting thing about hospitals is that they're really about critical care. Ironically, they're typically configured in a way and located in places which aren't the most health promoting kind of environments, I'll say, in their settings. But we also recognize that they are some of the largest employers in most jurisdictions, and that they function as kind of 24/7 cities. They really do function all day, all night, 365 days a year. There are a number of, in addition to the patients, there are a number of employees that live there. Although, sorry, that I'm sure they feel like they live there, but they work there. And so one of the things that we also understand is that this is a highly competitive environment. And so we're really looking at creating solutions that allow us to leverage the benefits really that you get from these important institutions. Up on the screen are just some images from some of our built projects that we've done. As you can see, it really is about creating a distinct sense of place, a place that communities are proud to call their own and to occupy. So more related specifically to this project, just a couple of examples. One is Lifesci Village. It's now been rebranded to a name Viva White Oak. It's 184 acres immediately adjacent to the Food and Drug Administration. So what this does is really creates a compact, walkable, mixed-use place that contains about 5 million square feet of research and development, hotel, about 1 million square feet of other office, significant amount of retail, and about 3 million or roughly about 3,000 residential units. And so this is really about capitalizing on this desire in the real estate market to create these kinds of places that add significant value. Another project that I have been involved in for several years is the Parks at Historic Walter Reed. So this is a place that has served, in essence, their mission was to serve those that have served us. When Walter Reed was then relocated to its new facility, it left this historic campus. And so what do you do with that? And so a master plan was created for adaptive reuse of those historic buildings, for new buildings, new uses, but also really knitting it back into the community. So rather than this kind of isolated campus, it really becomes something that weaves seamlessly with the surrounding community. So for example, it's hard to see, but off to the right here is a street that has some retail. I'll say it's probably struggling a little bit. But one of the things that this does is brings new residents, new employees, new visitors to sort of, it's kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? But we had to be very sensitive about the kind of historic nature of these buildings and the historic nature of the landscape of the lawn, for example, and how we do that. So it's something that I've been very proud to be a part of. So when we look at kind of the general real estate trends, I'd say that probably in the past 20, 25 years, at the beginning, you saw kind of a shift, and now you're seeing an exponential shift, really, in what people are looking for. So before, you might have said to yourself, well, if I have a brand new shiny building out in the suburbs, that's great and that's good enough. But today, that's really not the case. We have a highly competitive office market. When we're looking, companies really kind of look at themselves and they say, it's really about the people. It's really about the talent that we can attract. And what does it take to do that? Especially with the millennial generation, people are really looking for these kind of mixed use, walkable centers. And so much of real estate is moving in that direction and trying to create these kinds of places. Kinds of places where kind of all of life can occur as opposed to just kind of one single setting. These are principles that relate to smart growth and really an emphasis on healthy communities going into the future. The trends in research and biotech really kind of parallel those trends. We were working with a stakeholder, Brookhaven National Labs, if you know the lab out in Long Island. They do significant research out there. They have one-of-a-kind facilities within the entire world. Scientists are kind of falling all over each other to kind of get time there. But they have produced a significant amount of really significant research and award-winning things, really the Nobel Prize in physics and science. And so you might ask yourself, why is there a picture of this and why is there a picture of this in the same place? Lonnie Bates, who's the director of campus development, really summed it up nicely. He said, innovation happens over beer, coffee, and conversation. And that's really true. It's when you get together with other people and you start to share ideas that you start to get innovation. Pete Engardio and Bloomberg Business Week said the trend is to nurture living, breathing communities rather than sterile, remote compounds of research silos. So this leads to kind of a very collaborative process that allows for cross-pollination, that allows you to leverage institutional relationships. And it's these kinds of places that have mixed-use amenities, that are walkable, that are also at the same time healthy and sustainable, that it encourages really that kind of innovation. So that's the kind of place that we're trying to create here. Even more specifically, Research Triangle Park in North Carolina is just one example out of many places. It really developed in this very suburban kind of development style, a building surrounded by surface parking lots, right? And that has functioned for many years, but they've recently completed a master planning process that really looks at creating a series of nodes, compact, walkable, mixed-use development that brings residential, brings retail, brings hotel in this kind of place, because they see that as being critical in remaining competitive over the next 50 years. It's not just Research Triangle Park. There are many other places. There's Cummings Research Park in Alabama that is doing the same thing. There is Johns Hopkins, where they're going to have a biotech campus as well. But again, it's not a campus. It's really integrated into kind of a mixed-use, compact, walkable place. And so they see the value in that.
So all that's great, but it has to start somewhere. So we're starting here. We're starting with the North 60, which with the Ferrari property next door comprises 80 acres located in the center of Mount Pleasant. This is 125 miles from Albany, 25 miles from Manhattan. It is 3 miles from the Valhalla train station, 2 miles from the Hawthorne train station. It is a 5-minute walk to the majority of the existing campus. This land has been here for quite a few years as an undeveloped piece of property. On the North 60, today there's a single caretaker's cottage closer to Route 9A. The Ferrari property has a few old single-family homes that sit up there. The North 60 was part of the Grasslands Reservation. The North 60 fronts to the south on Hospital Road, to the east along the Sprain Parkway, and now with the combination property to the west with an adjacent office park, and then to the north we have a residential community. This property, when the Sprain Parkway was put through in the 70s, it was largely a kind of vacant hayfield, and over the years has been utilized by the county and predominantly the hospital to kind of be a staging area for their construction projects on their campus. So we thought it'd be a good idea for everyone to get a view of what this property looks like from a couple hundred feet up in the air. So the next slide is going to have a video, which will run for about 2 minutes, and will kind of take you around the campus. So now you're up over the staging area looking to the south towards the medical center. And the drone is moving back. You see the parking area that's currently filled with cars. That's being utilized by the medical center for the parking for their current build. You see the slightly disturbed area behind there where the North 60 label just popped up. That is their kind of processing center for the medical center's new build. Now the drone is spinning around and you see Regeneron off in the distance to the south. You see a few of the roofs of the single-family homes and the old nursery that's on the Ferrari property and the adjacent executive park. You're looking towards the Route 9A and the Sawmill River corridor. Right where those pine trees are, just below that arrow, is where the caretaker's cottage still stands. And here to the north, you see the residential community. Now the Sprain Parkway is coming into view. And what the drone doesn't really pick up a whole lot of the topography. This isn't a flat site. The high point of the property is along Hospital Road. That property falls off towards Stevens Avenue, where it gets quite a bit lower. And the property is bisected by 2 ravines, which pick up some drainage water. You see on the left-hand side of the screen, that's the retention basin off of the Sprain Parkway. So that kind of water that moves to those ravines, as well as the area. So here's the kind of current state of the property we leased. The upper left is the current staging area where fill material that was taken out of the excavation for the hospital addition has been placed here and should be removed. To the upper right, you see a picture of the stream that feeds off of that retention basin off of the Sprain. There's a vertical bank on the right-hand side. As you can see, there's some concrete sticking out of it. That's some old bridge work that was deposited here as fill 50 or so years ago. You can see the sedimentation in the stream. It's not a pristine piece of water at all. The lower left is that stream as it continues down to its point of exit out of the property. Those are the remnants of what I believe to have been a Corvair. The front axle and the hood is still there, the trunk is still there, but the dam was broken over the years and it eroded away. And then coming back to the lower right is another view of that fill area with various things that have come out of the campus. And with that, we're going to turn that into something pretty amazing. And so now Eric is going to walk you through that part.
I get to show the fun pictures. We put this slide in here at this point because really we wanted to sort of state what are the goals? What are the goals that we kind of set out to do here with this plan, and then kind of go through the plan and sort of show you how we think we're achieving these goals. So the first was to create a technology hub that has a biotech focus, that strengthens the relationships with Westchester Medical Center, New York Medical College, and other local area colleges. The second was to create a sense of place, a strong identity with mixed-use amenities, certainly to benefit the people that are at the New York Medical College, the Westchester Medical Center, and this project itself, but not really just for that, really for the surrounding community as a place where they can also come together. We provide for, the goal was to provide for interaction through a kind of Main Street retail, plazas, dining opportunities, and to promote health in multiple different ways. One of the significant ways is through educational opportunities. Another is through sort of pedestrian, walking, biking, etc. And the other is really through the preservation and provision of nature, which is a very important thing to health as well. Integrating with the landscape through interpretive trails, through preservation, but not just preservation, really enhancement, as you saw from those previous pictures. That's not the best state. We want to make it better than that. And through the courtyards as well. You can sort of see some of the images that sort of represent some of the ideas here, the idea of Main Street retail, the idea of courtyard spaces that are kind of naturalized, biking opportunities, really preservation and enhancement and educational opportunities about the environment. So this is the plan. Plans are kind of hard to read in the sense that it's hard to really get a sense of what this really is, right? So we're going to walk you through the plan, look at the plan first, and then look at perspective images, precedent images, etc. But to give you kind of an idea, this is Hospital Road here. This is the hospital. This is the Sprainbrook Parkway. So as you come off of Hospital Road, the way I would describe this is that they're really kind of almost three ridges, meaning there's one here, there's one in the middle, and there's one to the west. When you're here at this end to the north, this is a hillside that drops down this way significantly. In between, this is where the streams are, and the topography there drops down to the stream. And so what the strategy here was to really develop in an environmentally sensitive way that builds where it makes sense to build, preserves and enhances beyond that, and maintains these riparian corridors. So a couple of things here that I'd like to point out is that the idea is a Main Street retail environment that connects directly to the hospital here. Opportunities for educational facilities to the right, a hotel, and then the purple represents biotech. Blue represents medical office. So as you can see, the vision here is really to create a biotech campus that has a mixed-use core, but that embraces and looks at the hospital and at the surrounding community as well. Program-wise, this is a preliminary because it'll change as we kind of go through the process, but what we're envisioning is that there's about 2 million square feet of biotech research, 400,000 medical office, the Children's Science and Education Center, about 140,000 square feet, neighborhood shopping as high as 200,000 square feet, and a hotel, which totals about 3 million square feet of development. So to give you a little bit more detail on what this looks like, one of the things that we do, we think visualization is incredibly important. We try not to just do pretty pictures. We in essence try to, let's generate accurate views from these points in the plan. So for example, we see this red arrow. We're standing about here on the south side of Hospital Road, and we're going to be looking to the north at Main Street and at the 2 buildings here, which contains biotech, contains potentially a pharmacy, let's say, office above, and retail. So this is that view. So again, Hospital Road is going left to right here. And so what we envision is improved pedestrian connections and crossings so that it's easy to get to, a small plaza, mixed-use buildings that have retail on the ground floor, buildings that have office and biotech above, and potentially other retail uses. And you can kind of see that character that we're conveying in these images. So this really becomes a gateway and a new front door and a way to create a seam that really meshes with the hospital. The second thing that we're going to look at is a plaza and pedestrian connection. This is really about just what is the character of that Main Street itself. And then we also have kind of a unique feature here that we actually create a pedestrian connection between these buildings that takes you over to the Children's Education Center with pedestrian bridges that allow you quick, easy access. This is that view. So this is Main Street here. This is a small plaza. Again, it's important to have kind of interactive opportunities for people of all ages, for adults, for children, for dining opportunities, for people that work here in these offices and research facilities. And then off this image is a pedestrian sort of connection that takes you over to the education center, which I'll show you an image later that sort of shows what that would look like. Really, one of the main spaces here is the neighborhood square. And so that's a really critical thing to sort of get in there very early on. It really is a gathering place. It's a gathering place for the community. One of the things that it has, it's activated by having retail on the ground floor. It's sort of centrally located within this area of the project. And these are some precedent images from other places that are like that. So for example, this is a place that's actually near where I live. You can see that there's this town green. In essence, people come out here on Friday nights and they lay out their blankets and they actually have movies in the park. But it's also a flexible space that allows for other kinds of things. So it's kind of outdoor markets or other kinds of things like that. And interestingly, there's even, for example, a little coffee shop that sits in the green. So a lot of opportunities for the community to come and enjoy the space and interact. And then this is a project that we did in Columbia Heights in DC. Again, you can see the retail. In this case, it's residential, but a very active public space that allows the community to come out and engage with each other. So the Children's Science and Education Center is a really wonderful idea. This idea that you can go and receive this kind of education, but also potentially partnering with other institutions for facilities that can be used for education. So for example, they could be wet lab space where students can come and learn about biotech. So this is a very important component that fits in very nicely with the remainder of the program here. And then what we're going to look at, is it in the next one? No, before we look at that, just to describe a little bit more about what this is. It's really about creating dynamic, interactive educational programming that sparks a passion for STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math education in young learners. Focuses on the most important elements to improve the health of children and adults. helps everyone understand the most prevalent diseases, illnesses, and accidents, serves as a valuable resource for local school districts. So for example, you could have field trips here. It's something that's very local rather than going far away, where you can just come very close by, see these sort of world-class facilities, and receive education there. They could also have awards and contests that further promote STEAM pursuits. And one very important thing is providing employment and job training opportunities for non-college bound high school seniors and juniors, or even college bound. But that's really a significant kind of opportunity and part of the mission, really, of what this is. Here in this location is the Promenade and Stream Valley. So there's a lot of different characters on the stream valleys. You see that there are a lot of length of stream. But this area right here up to Hospital Road is kind of the most developed area. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you what that looks like if we're standing here and we're looking south. We're going to be looking south toward the hospital and south toward the Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital. And you'll see a hotel here on the corner, and an office building with retail and the education center. And this is that view. So again, we're looking south this way. You have the Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital. You have the Westchester Medical Center. This is Hospital Road, just on the other side of these flowering trees. And then this is the stream, really providing an opportunity to create both an improvement to the water quality through aeration, but also educational opportunities and interpretive opportunities that can go with the programming of the Children's Science and Education Center. Providing pedestrian connections to get over to Main Street, which is just on the other side of this building, and a pedestrian promenade, which leads you through here, and access down to the water's edge. And of course, to Blue Heron that will always be there. So really, this is really a fantastic image because what it shows is that relationship and that connection over to the hospital. So here are some other precedent images for what we're talking about. On the top left, this is 4th Ward Park outside of Atlanta. It's a really fantastic project because it actually serves 3 different functions. Number one, it's actually a stormwater facility. Number 2, it's a park that gets highly used. And number 3, it provides for wetland habitat. And so it shows as an example that you really can create something that has multiple kinds of functions and yet is a very celebrated place for the community. That is not the character of all of the streams, of course. But here's an example of a promenade that provides access near the edge. But much of the site, as you saw with the, what did you say it was, a Corsair? Or Corvette, okay. We would, of course, take those out, right? And we would seek to really reestablish what it should be, which is kind of stabilized banks and a healthy stream that has a significant amount of biodiversity, really returning it to what it should be. And so that's part of the goal of the overall project. So the transportation framework is an important piece of the puzzle. It's built around streets and sidewalks. Streets that are not just for the car or high-speed moving cars, but rather designed just as much for pedestrians. What this means is having on-street parking that creates kind of a barrier between cars and pedestrians and makes it feel safer. Tree-lined streets that create a better environment and a safer environment, and sidewalks through that system. Paved paths and pedestrian bridges, paths that take you through those stream valleys, allow opportunities for exercise, and also for transit, for example, the Hawthorne Station here, and a bicycle system. So if we look at the plan more specifically, you'll see a bunch of lines. So what do these lines represent? The blue lines represent the streets. So what this shows is there's an interconnected network or grid of streets, which is very important for promoting easy pedestrian access. The second thing that you'll see are the green lines. These represent the pedestrian paths, both to get you to Main Street, but also as a loop, as kind of a recreational walking path that allows you, allows anyone, right? Anyone that's occupying this space or any from the surrounding community to come and use this space. It also provides bike access. There's an off-street bike path along Hospital Road. I'll show you where that connects to in the bigger picture in a moment. And a cycle track along the west edge, which is a type of a bike path along a road. What this does is basically provides you access to the edges of the North 60 so that you can then move through on the local kind of connections throughout the North 60. So this is where we zoom out. The red is the North 60. This area down here is the hospital and the medical college. And so one of the things that you see is the North County Trailway and the South County Trailway off to the west. Going along, I think it's Grasslands Road, there's a connection that can take you up to the North 60 when you arrive there. So this provides access to a regional system where people, not everybody wants to do that, right? But there are a lot of people that do want to commute or do want to do that recreationally. A very important piece of the puzzle really has to do with mass transit. And so really connecting the North 60 via a shuttle to Valhalla and to Hawthorne and back to the North 60 is a really important piece of the puzzle. What this does is allows people to use mass transit so they aren't putting additional cars on the road. One other really important thing, a byproduct of this that it does is, as wonderful as we think that North 60 will be, as Kevin was saying to me earlier today, you know, people actually do get tired of eating at the same places every day. And so what this does is it provides an opportunity for people that work here to actually go to Valhalla and to go eat at, let's say, the Indian restaurant that's there, or to come up to Hawthorne and access the amenities there. And so I think it's really something, a project that's going to facilitate, again, that tide lifting all boats. So now we're going to talk about implementation. Kevin's going to talk about this, but I just wanted to point one thing out. The top right image, this is a project that we designed in Bethesda, Maryland. This is a kind of a retail shopping pedestrian street with restaurants here with these doors that open to the outside on very nice days. This is kind of a multi-use space. The way that this space gets used is for outdoor dining, but also on the weekends for other kinds of fairs and other events. They even had, for example, a fashion show that they set up a stage or concerts in here. This is what we envision as that pedestrian connection that I talked about earlier, where you kind of go from Main Street, you move between the buildings through a pedestrian passage before you get to the bridge that takes you to the educational center. So this sort of established the kind of framework that we're looking to create here.
So phase one, as you can see, there's a program in the upper left-hand corner, and over the past 3 years, we've been working on this. We've kind of gotten out and we've spoken to folks at local colleges, local school systems, local companies focused on biotech. And we've heard a lot of kind of reoccurring wants and needs. And the idea of kind of providing those support elements to the biotech is what's going to bring the biotech in earnest in a successful manner. So we're focusing our development right off the bat, right along Hospital Road. There's existing infrastructure that exists. It's the best way to start. But before we do anything, one of the first things we're going to do is you see along the western edge of the property, you see a kind of long winding path that is going to be the primary vehicle access for us during construction, as well as opening it up to the public right off the bat to create a connection to the Sawmill River corridor that currently doesn't exist to the hospital campus today. So that will happen at the same time as phase one. And then if you notice in phase one, you see kind of a large footprint. A lot of that is preparing for what we hope will be one really long phase one that completes the entire project. We're going to start off, we anticipate, with a hotel right on the corner of Hospital Road and the Springbrook Parkway. With that, we're going to provide surface parking to satisfy the need for the hotel and then some, with the idea that we're prepping the pad for the future development of what may be called Education Row. That will develop as time goes. But if you notice, the stream that I started off with is shown here now in phase one. That rehabilitation is going to happen now. That is an important thing for the community, an important thing for the project. As you continue down Hospital Road, you see Main Street. Main Street gets built now with phase one. The boulevard will go in, the community green for all will go in now. The buildings that surround it, time is going to tell as we go through this process what goes where. We anticipate right up along Hospital Road to the west. The purple will be the kind of next step in biotech where those crazy smart college kids, are going to get a grant and they're going to need some space to do something, but they're not going to need a lot of space. And currently there is no space for them to go to. So we envision this to be a biotech use wherein there'll be a community equipment within the floor that someone who's renting 200 square feet can have access to that equipment and not have to get through the hurdle of having that equipment in their initial build. We think there'll be some neighborhood shopping to kind of become the support engine for that biotech, a health and wellness center maybe, a pharmacy, and that'll really be the start of what happens. The surface parking, that you see eventually turns into other buildings and biotech along the way. As this gets built out, more of that parking will go underground. So at the end of the day, there'll be a few parking structures, but they'll largely be screened by buildings. So you're going to be in an environment where the car really becomes a secondary thought and the landscape comes first. The pedestrian access comes first. And, right off the bat, 500,000 square feet is where we see phase one. And like I say, hopefully, the education row, becomes the next, 200,000 square feet that we're able to build through the partnerships that we're beginning to develop now. As now we have what we need to get this process going, we're able to talk a lot more seriously with a lot of members within the community and the industry in general.
Thank you, Eric and Kevin. What's in it for the town of Mount Pleasant? You're doing a lot for us. We hope we do a lot for you. Based on today's taxes, we estimate $9 million in recurring real estate taxes to the town, the school district of Mount Pleasant, the school district of Mechanical Hills, and Westchester County. It's based on if it was built today. We expect $7 million in annual rent by our lease to the county of Westchester. Hopefully that will help not only Mount Pleasant residents, but Westchester County residents as well. We think there's going to be 4,000 real construction jobs once this project gets underway. And most importantly, we think there are approximately 8,000 new permanent jobs from entry level to professional. We think it positions Westchester County, and most specifically Mount Pleasant, at the forefront of the region's emerging new economy. Biotech is where it's at, and Mount Pleasant, I think, is going to be at the epicenter. We think we create career opportunities for students by forming partnerships with the higher education institutions, Westchester Community College, PACE, New York Medical College, maybe Fordham. All folks have already spoken to us and are very interested in helping create career paths for kids and young adults in these emerging economies, most specifically, lots of Mount Pleasant youngsters. And as a unanticipated benefit, we believe it may well create feeder opportunities for local empty nesters. We're going to have a lot of people on that site that are going to come as young professionals and age into management positions. They will, because they'll be working here, understand how unique your town is. They're going to want to buy here when they want to start families. They're going to want to take advantages of the school districts, of what town recreation. And you know what they're going to do, we feel? They're going to want to buy out your empty nesters who are going to want to sell but remain here, but have a whole new sub-real estate market that doesn't exist. So there it is. What we're going to do before we ask questions, we're going to make Mike Divney come up. He's been through a lot of these. We've asked him to just hit the high points for you. We gave you an awful lot of information. Trust that we will be before your planning board a lot over the next year or so. So Mike Dibney?
Thank you, Neil. Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, it's a delight to be here. It's wonderful to be part of this dynamic vision. Eric and Kevin have outlined to you something that is very remarkable, and given the size of the property, that opportunity is clearly being fulfilled by what you've seen this evening. It's a great opportunity, and it seems like we have the right team to make it happen. As Eric pointed out, there's a remarkable opportunity to integrate this with the transportation network. That is really a remarkable opportunity, both transportation and existing facilities, but using the shuttle system to really integrate the public transportation as a mode of getting to and from this site, and indirectly bringing new vitality to the hamlets, as Eric had pointed out, and Kevin, what people that get tired of dinner at the site are going to want to go down to other places. We can only imagine what this new economic vitality might mean. One of the most interesting and exciting parts of what I've heard this evening is all the elements of sustainability. It is remarkable that they all can seem to come together in this location. Restoring a degraded stream bed, bringing back a landscape and a wildlife habitat that has long been disappeared, opening up opportunities to give the medical center and the medical college an opportunity, as Eric pointed out, to be part of a contemporary environment. This will put Mount Pleasant on the bigger map, bigger than the one it's on already. Neil pointed out the tremendous tax benefits that come from it. And what is remarkable, interest has already been expressed through the educational institutions to find a way for their students to become part of this. And it's beginning to become a consortium almost. These organizations needed a place to come together to bring their various interests to a common location and work together to bring their students up to another level. Now, that's only the beginning in a sense, because when you think about all the jobs that will be available here at all levels, that's a great benefit to the residents of this town and the nearby area to have really high quality professional jobs available close to home. So the ingredients of the plan seem to be right on target for where this community and this state and where our economy is going. And fortunately, we have the site, have the developer, and have the town that have the capacity and the ability to make it happen. We know you may have one or two questions, so we thought that we would take a few minutes, still stay within our time limit, and perhaps you might want to ask questions of those in the team that have the interest and the background to answer those for you. So thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
I have a question in regards to traffic is always going to be a big issue, and we'll be talking about extensively over the next year. To the west of the property, you have the connection from the Hospital Road down to 9A. Obviously, you just can't enter 9A without some kind of a controlled intersection. Is that something that's in the works?
We believe that's something that will happen. John Collins is here. John, you want to give us a quick response?
It will happen.
That's two more words than yes.
It was a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be.
Right. No, don't stop there. Keep going. Let's see where you're on a roll.
It's an exciting project. It could also be a little scary. You know what I mean? And by moving at the pace that we're looking at, I think that's probably the best thing for us. To jump into it with, you know, the whole thing at one time. I know the planning board's going to want to know what your whole plan is. They want to see from 30,000 feet, what's this whole project going to be? But starting, you know, a little at a time, I think is the best way for us to go. That way we can measure the changes. We can maybe make changes along the way to fit the project the way we want it to be.
That's a very important point. Planning is a feedback process. Eric has outlined and Kevin has given you the details of what they perceive to be the opportunity at the moment. We will all learn from that. We will all see who is also excited by what is being presented, and they themselves, we will get ideas from places we've never thought of. And I think the planning board, town board, the community, it's a very involved community, will provide a lot of input and insight into how to make this a success over time.
So with
Just
that
one-
being, oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, just one other point. The hamlets, we have talked about the hamlets many times with Neil and John. It is very important to us to preserve our hamlets and to improve on them. And I know that we've had discussions about working together to ensure that our hamlets will get the needed growth that they need to come back to vitality that we want to see in our hamlets. That's so important.
Well, this is an opportunity. I think, as Eric pointed out, the idea of a shuttle loop to 2 Metro North stations, providing that connection to a wide region, not only just to New York City, but to the north as well. And I think it's a beginning of an opportunity that collectively we explore to find what are the elements of bringing economic vitality to the hamlets, using the idea that there's a large facility that's going to provide energy, but that's only part of it. Now there's an opportunity to connect them together, connect them to this site and to other places as well. So
Eric, I know you have some ideas. Maybe.
Yeah, very briefly. We've been asked to sort of help in that process, thinking about it. We haven't really started in a whole lot of detail yet, but just looking at some other places, for example, there's a great title of an article that's called "What Main Street Can Learn from the Mall." So what's interesting about malls is that they're highly managed. There's a science behind it. In other words, why is one tenant next to the other one? What happens if that isn't working? So what some Main Street communities have done is they've actually added a Main Street manager as part of, let's say, a business improvement district that sort of helps the tenants kind of figure out let's work together rather than sort of competing with each other. And let's figure out what the kind of best strategy is when we look at who the best tenants and who the best uses and where they are. The other thing that many Main Street communities realize is that what they're lacking are people, right? They actually need residents to live there. And so that's something that I'm guessing is probably the same here. Having an increase of residents provides for more people to be there 24 hours a day. And then the third item is really about public spaces. So why do people go to these places? When you look at kind of old main streets with the town square, they went there to shop, sure, but they also went there to have activities, to get together with other people. And so programming is incredibly important in these kinds of communities, making sure that you have a number of activities kind of every weekend that draws people there and that supports the kind of the businesses that are there. So there are a lot of different strategies that we can talk about and think about, but that's something that we'll be trying to help you do.
Okay, my only question was to go back to time frame. When we looked at the initial phase, we saw a small portion of what you're planning. And can I ask you, what's the build out on that? Is it a year, 2 years, 5 years?
Well, step one is to take this entire project through an approval process. Admittedly, an estimate of where it will go, but we don't want to break apart in the review or in the planning what it might look like, with the understanding that, yes, there will be feedback and there'll be modifications. So that's going to take a couple of weeks. So we know there's a methodical, thoughtful, step-by-step, careful process to make sure we all get it right. And I would guess that that's anything from 1 year to 18 months. Kevin has already indicated there are elements to start, so I would say 3 to 5 years for phase one. And things beget progress. So the sooner we get that, the more we let people know what the vision is all about and that it is dynamic and that there's a broad support for this and a lot of consortiums developing around it, then maybe others will find that this is a great place to do business.
I had a question with respect to the topography of phase one. So it's 3 to 5 years. I was a little concerned about the land in that particular area where you're putting the hotel. Is that going to change?
Well, there will be regrading of the property, all carefully designed to meet all proper standards. But as you saw Kevin say, we have to create building pads first, and they will be done in a very careful, thoughtful way. Planning board will see the topography of the plans, the utilities, the stormwater, and you saw the vision of what could be at the very north or southern part of that waterway. That will be regraded and integrated into the adjacent landscape.
Okay, great, thank you.
I had a clarification to ask about. I know that there is a designated exit to Hospital Road now off the Sprain. Will that affect the loop traffic that you're trying to create? Because I understand that your intention is to have most of the traffic coming from 9A, which is, you call it the Sawmill Corridor, we call it 9A. But is that, is that where you want to have most of the traffic coming in from to this facility? Because
Well, our traffic studies will get into more detail. As has been pointed out, it's important to open up that brand new connection to 9A.
Right.
And there's a chance that people who now are forced to use Hospital Road and the Sprain may find the 9A opportunity an alternate for them if they're coming to the hospital, to the medical center, or to the college. So there may be a reallocation or alteration of travel desires. We'll try to take advantage of that and blend it all together and find the best optimization of all the traffic routes, having provided something brand new that hasn't been available for decades.
Right.
I think that will come out of this traffic analysis. Will some use that and open up capacity on the other side? But certainly we're going to have to carefully study Hospital Road and the bridge.
Right, because the exit coming out now from the hospital is onto Route 100 to get onto the Sprain.
Right.
And it gets crazy there. It gets very, very bad there.
I've taken it many times.
Yes.
Yeah. So we look forward to spending more time with you and the planning board and others, and we're ready to move on to them with your authority.
As I said before, this is the first in many of stages that we'll be working through. Next phase will be, they will be referred to the planning board. That's our next move. Once in the planning board, it's an opportunity for the entire public to voice their opinion, to ask questions, and to come to some kind of resolution on these issues. So that's our next phase in this project, right?
You got it, Mr.
Excuse me. If I may, Mr. Supervisor, does that mean that you're going to try to do that tonight?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
I do
yes, yes.
have a motion to refer this to the planning board for all purposes, site plan review, consideration
Sequel.
of zone changes, secret review, et cetera.
I so move.
Motion by Ms. Haggis to report this, to send this to the planning board. for
Second.
Review.
I'll second that, Mr. Supervisor.
Second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, and it is just about 8 o'clock. Thank you.
Good work, Neil.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank
you.
You're very welcome. Look forward to working.
5-minute recess.
5-minute recess.
Now we're going to move on to our regularly scheduled meeting.
Hi, Joe. My little fan up there. Hey, Rocco.
In order to formally start the meeting, I would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance again, if you don't mind. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to tonight's town board meeting. It is February 26, 2019. As you know, we just went through a presentation by Ferrari Associates for the North 60 project. And we did take a vote, but I would like to have a formal vote with our town clerk present so she can record the vote. As it stands, we had Councilwoman Hagedis made the motion. It was seconded by Mr.
Yes,
Saliano.
absolutely. Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's a motion, Mr. Supervisor, to refer the action to the planning board for all purposes, including issues related to zone changes, site plan.
CEQA. Yeah. Moving on to our public hearings. The first item on our agenda tonight is to amend Town Code, Chapter 206-40, to add a stop signs along Shelley Avenue. This is the proposed local law 1/2019. These come up periodically, our traffic and safety or our police department finds that an area could be a little dangerous, so they want to add a stop sign to control traffic. So this motion will add a stop sign. Let me pull up the exact location. I think there's 2 stop signs. Do you have the location there, Susan?
One is Shelley and one Maple Street, at the intersection of Maple Street, it says.
Maple Street and Shelley Avenue in Valhalla.
Okay. This motion will approve stop signs at Shelley Avenue and
Maple Street. Public notice?
that's a good
This is
idea.
just
Read
a
the
public hearing.
notice. Thank you. That would
Yes.
help.
You want to take
Yes, please read the
I am
public
sitting
notice.
here. Okay. Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Mount Pleasant, New York, shall conduct a public hearing at the Town Hall on the 26th day of February 2019 at 8:00 p.m. to discuss a proposed local law number 1/2019, which will amend Town Code Chapter 206-40, Schedule 6, stop intersections to place stop signs on Shelley Avenue at its intersection with Maple Street in both the north and south directions. Please take further notice the proposed local law is available for review in the town clerk's office. Please take further notice that at the public hearing upon said proposed local law, an opportunity to be heard in regards thereto will then and there be given to those favoring passage of such proposed local law and also those opposed thereto. Susan Marmel, Town Clerk, Town of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak on this proposed change? I know it's a big topic. Being there no speakers, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved to close the public hearing. Just to comment that this is I live in that area and that community, and it is very necessary. Thank you.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approving Town Code, the amendment to Town Code, Chapter 206-40, to add a stop signs along Shelley Avenue. Proposed Law 1/2019. I'll take a motion on that.
I think that's the one.
We
We just
closed
did.
it, and then
We already closed it.
we closed it
it.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
and approved it. We have
there's
to
two.
approve it, right?
Yes, now you have to approve it.
We have to
I
approve
move
it.
to approve.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Haggis,
I will second that, please.
second by Ms. Smalley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on public hearings is amend Town Code, Chapter 218-68 to expand the construction of multifamily residential development in the CNR zone. Proposed law, local law 2-2019.
Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Mount Pleasant, New York, shall conduct a public hearing at the Town Hall on the 26th day of February 2019 at 8:00 p.m. to discuss a proposed local law number 2, 2019, which will amend Town Code Chapter 218-68 to expand the construction of multifamily residential developments in the C-NR zone. Please take further notice that proposed local law is available for review in the town clerk's office. Please take further notice that at the public hearing upon said proposed local law, an opportunity to be heard in regards thereto will then and there be given to those favoring passage of such proposed local law and also those opposed thereto. Susan Marble, Town Clerk, Town of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you. What this code addresses is, up until 1983, you were allowed to have residential above retail in the CNR zone in the town of Mount Pleasant. We've had many requests since then over the years to add residential above existing newer structures in the hamlets in the CNR zone. All this does is eliminate that restriction of the time. So anything that has been built since 1983 now will have the opportunity to have residential above the retail. Anybody who wishes to speak on this is welcome to do so.
Yes, I would. Is this?
Can you come up, please, and sign in for the record?
Yeah, it's required.
How many children could be moving in to affect our schools? I mean, does it come up with anything? We're not really concerned with that.
No, it is first of all, this goes through a planning board process. We're not talking about 2 or 3 bedroom apartments. It's more studio, 1 bedroom. There is a restriction on the size of them and all that also. So school is a major consideration in the planning of this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address this? Yes. That's all part of the planning board process. That hasn't changed the height restriction.
And when a project comes in, they go to the planning board, but the height has not changed.
Right.
It's 4 stories. Am I correct, Mr. Supervisor? It's 4-story structures are the limit here in the town of Mount Pleasant?
It's more of how many feet.
It's more.
I thought it was 35 feet.
We can look specifically for the CNR, I forget exactly what it is.
But that hasn't changed.
No.
We're not
It has not.
changing that by this.
That's not changing.
We're strictly changing the fact that if it's built after 1983, it would be allowed now.
So we're not allowing completely residential. It has to be mixed use.
On the ground floor? The way this stands now, yes. We are only modifying this particular zoning requirement to change the year. Basically, that's about it. Anyone else have any questions on this? There being no further speakers, I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to approving Resolution 12719 to amend Town Code Chapter 21868 to expand the construction of multifamily residential developments in the CNR zone. Proposed local law 2-2019.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our public hearings is to amend Chapter 185 Town Code for streams and water courses. I think our town engineer was a major part of this, and also we have a resident here, Mr. Paul Buckland, who has been very instrumental in researching this and helping us on this this change. What you have is a lot of people that have like a stream in their backyard. They don't want to see a stream anymore, so they put a pipe in, so they have a nice level backyard. But by doing that, they change all the way that water used to drain, and you're obstructing the flow of the water. So this code, who our town engineer David Smith had worked on in detail, will restrict how that's done. It would make sure that the proper size of piping would be done, and the necessary groundwater drain off would be addressed, so as not to create a problem for somebody downstream. David, do you have any comments on this you'd like to share?
Should we read the public hearing first?
Read the public notice.
I'm sorry, you could, I'm sorry, Susan, I'm taking this away from you.
There's a lot of public hearings.
Yeah.
Right. Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Mount Pleasant, New York, shall conduct a public hearing at the Town Hall on the 26th day of February 2019 at 8:00 p.m. to consider an amendment and additions to Chapter 185, Streams and Water Courses of the Town of Mount Pleasant Code. Please take further notice that the draft local law with all amendments and additions to Chapter 185, Streams and Water Courses, is available for review in the Town Clerk's office. Please take further notice that at the public hearing, said potential amendment and opportunity to be heard in regards thereto will then and there be given to those favoring passage of such proposed local law and also those opposed to it. Susan Moore, Town Clerk, Town of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you. Next time, just tell me to shut up if you don't want me to continue talking.
A long night.
David, the floor is yours. I know you work very hard on this, trying to make this right.
Good evening, Honorary Board, Town Supervisor. Yeah, just to add, you eloquently spoke about accurately what we're proposing. Just to add a couple of things is that one element in the code that we didn't have is that when somebody does put a pipe in the ground to cover up a stream and that pipe deteriorates and is in disrepair and then is subject for the properties upstream to flooding because it's not repaired, there's nothing in the town code that requires us or the town to enforce the homeowner to go in and to make those necessary repairs. Unfortunately, we had a couple instances where residents or homeowners weren't as forthcoming making those repairs to an existing system. It also provides us with the ability to go into a property and make those repairs and then put the costs on the person's taxes. But that wasn't in the town code prior also. And excuse me, in order to not put so much hardship on the homeowners, what we did do is we put a caveat into the code which stated that if you had to replace the pipe, of course, a wetland permit would be required to take out, that it wouldn't require you to go to the planning board, which had significant expense to getting the work done. The law would require or maintain that work and that permit would stay within the engineering department where we could work with the homeowners and not provide the additional expenses to get the work done. The whole emphasis was to protect private property, reduce flooding, and also make sure that prior infrastructure is just being maintained.
Thank you. A lot of these problems have been created locally in Virginia Lane area, Whittier Drive area, all due to, I don't think it was ever done intentional, but people want a nice level backyard and they put a pipe in and just get rid of that stream. What I found interesting is Westchester County has pictures actually of the old streams where they actually were. People may not even know they had a stream behind their house. But anyway, this town code will help us, protect neighboring residences. So anyone would like to speak on this, they're welcome to do so.
Good evening to the town board and
Supervisor. I just want to say I want to keep my remarks relatively short. I don't want to get into all of the issues that we've had in terms of flooding and such and so forth. What I do want to say, though, is I think if this does pass, that is, it's a kind of a shining example of the way in which members of the township are open-minded to realizing that there's a problem there when residents do come to them. At the same time, I think beyond that, they have the foresight to kind of see the ways in which maybe one small problem can affect also other areas of the township, a synecdochal relationship to the township as a whole. Beyond that, just the cooperation with especially Dave and Carl and other members of the township in terms of understanding this problem, getting down to the nuts and bolts of it and how it all works. And finally, then, just the hard work that I think it takes to do something that you think is simple. Do a small amendment, make a couple small amendments to the town code, when in reality, there's a lot that goes to that, because you don't want to mess up what's already there, but you want to add to it in a way that's responsibly done. And it involves the town lawyer as well, and all kinds of meetings that, you know, us as residents, even though we're meeting with Dave, let's say, and Carl, they have to meet with the lawyer and amongst themselves to make sure that any amendments that are made responsibly. So I do want to say thank you again for all the hard work, meeting with us, Carl, being open-minded again, the foresight, and I'm really looking forward to having this pass, because I don't think it's not just myself and the other 3 homeowners that I'm working with, but also I think as time goes on, there'll be a lot of other owners that will benefit from this change, this amendment to the town code. So thanks again.
And thank you for all your help and patience. Anyone else like to speak on this? I thought it was a lot more interesting than that. Being there no further speakers, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Saliano,
Second.
second by Ms. Hagedis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approving Resolution 12819, Chapter
moved.
185 Town Code for streams and water courses.
I'd say I'd like to go ahead and so move. Thank you.
Second, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley, second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on public hearings is to set new water rates for the town water districts. David Smith, our town engineer and superintendent of water and sewer, is here with us this evening. Nobody likes to see water rates go up, but it's not something we have total control over either. We buy water from New York City Water Supply and other surrounding municipalities. When their rates go up, those costs have to be passed on, unfortunately. For years, I know that the water districts have absorbed a certain amount of increases without raising rates, but now it's come to the time where we have to do a little catching up. But I'll let David, our town engineer, explain a little better.
After I do the public hearing.
And Susan, please read the public hearing. You're supposed to interrupt me.
Please take notice that the town board of the town of Mount Pleasant, New York shall conduct a public hearing at the town hall on the 26th day of February 2019 at 8:00 p.m. to consider an amendment to Chapter 211-8 Rates of Water Consumption of the Town of Mount Pleasant Code. Please take further notice that the draft local law with all amendments to Chapter 211-8 Rates for Water Consumption is available for review in the town clerk's office. Please take further notice that at the public hearing upon said potential amendment, an opportunity to be heard in regards thereto will then and there be given to those favoring passage of such proposed local law and also those opposed thereto. Susan Marmol, Town Clerk, Town of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you, Susan. David, is there anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, just to give an overview, excuse me, majority of our water districts have slight raises. There are 2 districts that were definitely higher than usual. The first district is the Apple Farm District, which was significant. But the reason that was that much of an increase is because we did have a capital project that went out. We just issued almost $7.5 million of capital bonds for the first phase of a project to replace the asbestos water mains in the district. We did hold survey. We sent out a surveys, held public meetings, and that response, the majority of the responses we got back requested for the water rates to be the sole source of funding for that first phase because of the issues with the raising the taxes and not being able to deduct the taxes on the federal tax law. So we were following recommendations from the public meetings and the survey, and that's why those rates are significant. We've also provided surrounding properties to show you, surrounding municipalities to show you what our neighboring municipalities are charging their residents, just to give you an idea. The other district that went up was Kensico Water District, and the reason for that was when we did replace the water meters, because the project took a long or extended length of time because we weren't able to get responses back to get meters replaced. Decision was made because the tier rate system went in, was that some people, when they had their meters replaced, were going to have 3, 4, maybe 5 months of water because of the way the logistics of the program went. So instead of charging those people a hardship by giving them, they most likely would have fallen into the higher tier rates. We arbitrarily kept all the tier rates the lowest rate. And what we did was, when we did implement the tier rates, that those tiers, that first tier was actually lower than the original the year prior. So what had happened was we had that set for about 6 quarters. So we were losing revenue coming in because the water was discounted. And what happened was our expenses were also going up. And because of that, we ended up having a fund balance that got depleted. So this attempt, in working with the controller and also with the town supervisor, the idea was to start righting the ship, so to speak. We kept taxes flat, so thereby that's why the water rates were going up. Excuse me. We took the lesson from Old Farm, which was that we have 2 ways of raising revenue, and that's through taxes or through water rates. Through taxes, you don't have a choice. You have to pay the tax, and that's it. At least with the water rates, you can conserve water, and that won't affect your bills as much. The good thing about the new water meters is we've also given you a tool that you can monitor your rates. Also, you can monitor leaks in your house, and if you do have any other problems with that meter or a faulty toilet or something in that house, that now it's not going to cost you significantly, even with the higher rates. Just to give you an idea, Kensico Water District has averaged about 44 water main breaks every year. Last year, just 3 of those water main breaks cost $52,000. And that was just 3 of the 44, and that's because of the extent of the damage. This year in Kensico, we have to do, EPA is requiring us to do sampling for unregistered contaminants, which is another $15,000. Sampling prices go up. We have to do more sampling. Chemicals go up. So everything seems to be going up. The one thing that we do is we can be proud of is that, at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, when it's 4 degrees out and 20 below zero, we've got 8 guys out there repairing a water main break. So some municipalities don't have the infrastructure up to date like we do. We've been putting money into our infrastructure. And also some municipalities don't have the staff we do. So thereby the rates that we're the people are paying for, you're also getting the service associated with that. So that's why we're proposing these rates before you tonight.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else wish to speak on this? You're welcome to do so.
Ken Noonan, Valhalla. First question is, there seems to be a new water district on your rate sheet here, Pleasantville Road Pace. Can you tell me where that came from?
That actually was always in the Pleasantville Road District. There's two categories. One is the I believe it's 17 or 20 homes on Pleasantville Road, which get charged one rate, and then the college gets charged a second rate. That's always been in existence.
But according to what you published the last time there was a rate increase, Pleasantville Road had 17 accounts, and on this new chart, Pleasantville Road again has 17 accounts, and Pleasantville Road Pace has 2 accounts. So it seems to me it's 2 new accounts.
I don't believe that the PACE rates were raised last year, but it's not a new account. It's actually a district that's been in existence for quite some time.
But if it's been in existence, so why didn't it appear on previous charts of the rates? It's not on the one for 2017 or 2016.
I believe if the rate, I'm not sure why that didn't occur at that time. We can look into it. However, I don't believe it was changed. So thereby, if the rate wasn't there, it remained unchanged like it would have prior years.
But you feel that Pace University was indeed paying their water bill?
Correct.
Oh, okay. The other question, the increases are really remarkable in the cases that you mentioned. But one that catches my eye particularly is the Kensico. It's the percentage increase. It just is so out of whack with the rest of the percentage increases. Most of the other ones are 4 or 6% increases. Kensico is increased by 25%. And it's not the first time that that's occurred. For the last increases, they went up 20% in the first tier. So what's causing all that increase in Kensico? I mean, right, we had a few water main breaks and everything, but it's so out of whack with the rest of the increases.
You also had a major water main replacement over on the South Kensico area.
Yeah, correct. We did over, I believe it's $7 million of capital improvements. We did buy $1 million of equipment this year. The salary increases went up. Just to give you an idea, from 2007 to 2013, the Kensico district rates went up 41% in that time period. From 2015 until when the first rates went in, the rates were kept flat for that 2 or 3 years. So, like I said, what's the reason why it's being made up for is because when one of the sole reasons was, besides the cost going up, is that our revenue did not come back. Another reason too is when precipitation is up, the need for water goes down also. So it's almost like a fluctuating, trying to hit your revenue at that time period. But just to give you an idea that I believe just over the top of my head, looking at 10 water districts, the Kensico Water District was $4.90 in 2015, 2016, and then when the Tier 1 rate went in, it was $4 or $4.10. And for six quarters, a year and a half, everybody was charged the 25% less water rates for that 6 quarters. During that time period, those losses went to the district, so now we have to make up for those losses.
Well, you go many years without making any adjustments, that also catches up to you.
Does each district do an official accounting, revenue, expenses, and everything? Does the public have access to that?
I believe it's in the auditors. The auditor is audited every year.
It's audited, but can we get a copy of that?
Sure, everything is still available.
Okay, thank you.
I think that You said that there's something available to monitor the consumption of water. So let's just highlight that feature. It's called Eye on Water, and you can have it on your phone, and you can monitor what your water consumption is, and you can yell at your kids to turn the faucet off or to get out of the shower, because you can see what where your usage is. And it's on the town website on how to sign up for that.
You could even watch the water use when you're not at home.
When you're not at home, you can see that whether your water is leaking or something.
Yeah, and just to get, and that's also the other service that we're providing too with the meters is we do monitor the leaks that are there. We do send out cards asking people to check. They may have leaks in their house. If it's a significant leak, just for example, we opened up the program one day and somebody had a 700 gallon an hour leak. That's like almost $100 a day in water usage. And we had the phone number for when the meter was switched out. We contacted the daughter, and it was actually her mother's house in Thornwood, and her mother was staying with her and didn't realize there was any issue. And because it was during the winter time. So we caught that within a few days of it occurring. The old way would have been
thousands.
Yeah. And so that's just one story. And there's multiple stories of us contacting people and having them have a savings there.
Yeah, and that's available in the town, but not the villages, the Eye on Water app.
Correct. I believe Sleepy Hollow has the program, but I'm not sure if it's up and running yet.
Yeah, and Pleasantville doesn't. No. Or Radcliffe Manor.
Anyone else like to address the water rates?
Barbara Barrick, Valhalla. I'd rather talk about the quality of our water. If we're paying more money for it, we want to make sure that we have a high quality water. Now, back in October, we received a letter, at least I'm in the Kensico Water District, and according to your sheet, there are 4,917 accounts. So I'm assuming most of the town received this notice about the haloacidic acid levels that were, and to quote, the average level is slightly above the state and federal drinking water standards of 60 parts per billion total haloacidic acids as a running annual average of 4 quarterly samples. Okay. Our average was just slightly above. It was 61.6, above the 60. Okay, fine, you say. Well, this is what I don't like. The sampling on November was 42.1. That was November of 17, because you do quarterly testing. So the sample in November of 2017 was 42.1. Well, you say, well, that's great. It's well below what's accepted. Then we get to February 13th of 18, and now it's 54.1. So now it's going up, but it's still below the 60. So, okay, you say, okay, still within acceptable levels. Okay, then we get to May of 2018, and the level is now 70.0. Okay, now we're above the 60 parts per billion that's acceptable by New York. Okay, now we're starting to worry. Okay, now we go to August of 18, and now it's 80.2 parts per billion. It's this steady increase that's troublesome here. I had called, I spoke to Mr. Smith and said, what are we doing about this? Since my husband has Crohn's, which is an autoimmune disease, and it says in the letter that people that have autoimmune diseases should be concerned about this. It also goes to the extent to say at the end of the letter, Please share this information with all other people who drink this water, especially those who may not have received this notice directly. For example, people in apartments, nursing homes, schools, and businesses. You can do this by posting this notice in a public place or distributing copies by hand or mail. Now, do you really expect me to go around to nursing homes, schools, businesses in the area and tell them about this? I don't think so. I think it should be your responsibility if you think there's a concern that these people should be notified. Okay. All right. So I think this is important to address. Besides, I understand prices go up and whatnot, but this is our health and we're all drinking this water. I think this is an important topic to be talking about. Sure. And what's being done about it. Now, I looked at your website and I think there's a study going on. Did I see something? There's a study that the results will be, the report will be given in March. Is that so?
It's a little delayed, but there are constant testing, and we are looking at other areas. We're trying to hit the low-hanging fruit first before we go to a major treatment redesign, which could be substantially a lot more money. So
I don't know what you mean by the low-hanging fruit. What does that mean?
Just to let you know that the increases in the haloacidic acids, a lot of times are associated with temperature, the water temperature, and also the age of the water. We did deploy automatic flushers in the system to cut down on the age of the water. And the other part of the program is going out and doing strategic flushing in certain areas, which is a very costly proposition to do. However, we take this notice seriously. As far as the notice is concerned, that's a notice that's sent to the health department. It's a New York State Health Department standard notice. We delivered letters to every account that we have. We also posted it online, and we did do a blast, an email blast, and a Nixle blast out to get the information out to the residents. Just to give you an idea that we believe that because we did do other testing, those results did come back high, so we'll be issuing another public notice as part of the same type of issuance as that one, so that our age that we've been looking at, trying to reduce the age of the water, hasn't had an impact. That's a concern. The other question we know of, and we believe that this may be one of the reasons, is New York City is doing, because we've never really had these kind of levels come back, and New York City's been doing work on the aqueduct, and we found that they're blending water from the Croton and also the West Branch into the Delaware. And what happens with that is that it brings in different source water. It brings in potentially more natural organics, which reacts with the chlorine, which produces these haloacidic acids. So unfortunately, it's not an easy fix. It's the purpose of the study is to actually look at the treatment system. Ultimately, the best case scenario or the best type of solution is a sand filtration system, which would cost multiple millions of dollars for the Kensico Water District. We believe that that's why this study hopefully will maybe make some adjustments to the treatment, but if these numbers keep staying up there without doing some modifications, we may have to go to something more significant.
Okay. Can you tell me, there must have been another sample in November.
Correct.
What was the level?
Can I see that again?
Yeah.
We actually had Pecanico was another issue besides Kensico, and they both came back high again.
Exactly, I want a number. The last
If I
one-
recall, the number is probably either 120 or 130 parts per billion. So that number will be coming up.
So you mean it was 80? Right?
Yeah, it went from 80 to
120 to 120?
correct.
Well, I think we've got a serious problem here. Something is gonna have to be done now. You said because of New York City blending from waters from different sources.
Correct.
Can they do that if they see, if we present them with, here's a problem here, we're having a problem here. Can't we have a say and say, well, you've got to stop doing this, you're contaminating our water, or?
We don't have a say with the water we're supplied. It doesn't mean that once it goes back to, because I believe the work was done and that water is still now resulting back to the original Delaware water. We will be keeping an eye on it and also proceeding of ways of trying to bring those levels down. Just to give you an idea that some studies show that there's an issue, some studies show that there's not an issue with these types of acids, but also the studies that they've conducted where they've shown it being an issue is high levels, higher levels than the 60 or the 70, and it's also over a number of period of time. So this is about twice 2 quarters, and that's why they do the year calculation. So it has to be over an extended period of time before it to be considered a potential issue that was conducted under a group of studies. But we do take it seriously, and we are, if it was an easy fix, it would be done already. And one thing we have to do is the key about the alternative to the haloacidic byproducts is you lower your chlorine. The problem with lowering your chlorine is now you actually have bacteria that goes into the system, which will or can lead to fatalities. So the other option of trying to get away from a potential long-term issue on studies, with studies that may or may not have shown that they're effective or not, is not worth the risk of reducing our chlorine levels to the point where it can become a public health risk.
Okay, now this supposedly is only happening in the Kensico Water District and the Kensico Hills, correct? Which is predominantly most of town. If you add up the totals here. Why these 2 districts? Why aren't the other districts affected?
One, the other districts are consecutive districts, so they're being fed water from another district that's treating the water. They're required to monitor those, just like we are. We haven't heard of any issues with them, but the other reason is because their water is filtered, sand filtered. Now, the key is that it's really one haloacetic acid number that's being tripped. The only question that has our mind really looking into this is the Kensico water is being fed by New York City, and Mechanico is being fed by the lakes. And they're both similarly affected. And we have done, because the Mechanico does have filtration. So it's just an unusual event that's happening that we're trying to.
They have sand.
They have filtration, yes, correct.
So we're the only ones then that don't.
Kensico does not have, right now we have UV treatment and we have chlorination treatment.
Okay, so how long is it before you say, we're gonna have to do sand? I mean, how many years? Are we gonna wait years, or what's the story?
I don't have an answer for you for that, but I do know that if our numbers don't go down, the health department, Westchester County, and both the state health department, which review everything that we're doing and require us to post these notices, may require us to do this sooner than expected. But I can find that information out and let you know.
Okay, and I'll be on top of it, so I hope you are too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to discuss the water rates? Be there no further speakers, I will entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I so move.
Motion by Ms. Haggerty.
Second.
Second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approving the town's water rates, Resolution 12919.
So move.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the supervisor's report. The first item I have on the supervisor's report is to ask for this board to call for a public hearing to enact marijuana legislation. As you all are very well aware, it's been publicized all over that the state is looking at legalizing marijuana. I have my personal concerns about it. Our police chief has his concerns, as do most police departments in New York State. We will be writing up legislation which will be publicized probably within the week that you're all welcome to review. But I personally will do whatever I can to make marijuana use, sale in the town of Mount Pleasant illegal. So I would like to schedule a public hearing in March
You want to do the next meeting, March 12th?
12th,
Is that good?
March 12th. So we need a resolution to approve a public hearing on the marijuana legislation, Resolution 13019.
So moved, please.
Motion by Ms. Hagedis,
Second.
second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to call for a public hearing to approve the rezoning of 6 Liberty Street, Hawthorne from R10 to CNR. This is actually an expansion of the existing CNR district into the R10 residential zone. So you want to set that for the same?
We can
March
do the same
12th?
thing, March 12th.
If you're all in agreement, approve
Like-
Resolution 131.
I'd like to move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item in regards to water, purchase order 83019-01. This is emergency work at the filtration plant. This is for a sensor replacement. I'll have to get the purchase order. Total cost for this is $4,154.50. Water is expensive.
Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Ms. Hagedis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is also regarding water, emergency work for buffer solution for CL17 machine. This is a chlorine machine. This is for sampling. I believe it's sampling. Invoice for this. Total is $7,792.89.
Make a motion for approval, please.
Motion by Mr. Saliano,
Second.
second by Ms. Hagedis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is purchase order 1621903. This is the Town of Mount Pleasant courtroom plaque, the one behind me that looks like a traffic sign. We're going to replace that with something a little more attractive and presentable. Total cost for this, with everything included, was $1,715.
Move for approval, please.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Smalley, second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, every year, regards to water again. Any unpaid water bills are automatically transferred to the April 2019 tax roll. This will authorize all these water bills to be transferred to the tax roll, Resolution 13519. I have the total, probably have the total. Yeah, the total that'll be transferred is $167,495.96.
Move to approve, please.
Motion by Ms. Hagedis,
Second, reluctantly.
Second by Ms. Smalley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is authorization to adjust the salary for Director of Fleet Operations David Barker, effective February 28, 2019. The reason for the adjustment is the added responsibilities for David Barker. He not only takes care of our fleets or trucks, he's doing inspections and repairs on volunteer ambulance corps vehicles, and I think he's even doing something with the fire departments, but it will change his salary to $97,019.
Move for approval, please.
I'll second that, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley, second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item I really don't like, to accept the resignation of Peter Saliano, who will be retiring effective today. Peter has been a dedicated employee to the town of Mount Pleasant for many years. He's been our highway superintendent, I think, for 8 or 9 years. 10 years? 10 years.
It was 10, yeah.
Aside from being a great guy, he will be very well missed as a highway superintendent in town of Mount Pleasant. He takes a lot of abuse. Anybody who's hit the pothole thinks about Peter. And it's a tough position to be in. We maintain 127 miles of road in the town of Mount Pleasant, which is hard for a lot of people to understand. You can't fill every hole and you can't correct every road. But Peter and the department do a great job of trying. So I reluctantly accept Peter's resignation, and I hope he enjoys his retirement.
Move for approval, again with happiness for Peter and his family, and a little bit of regret for the town of Mount Pleasant, because you know that many of us have to go to work every day, and it's only because of the efforts of Peter and his staff that in the winter and in those spring storms we've had, and even when we have rain in the fall, when there are leaves on the main highways, we can't get to work without their work. So I appreciate everything he's done, and I wish him very well. Thank you.
I would like to echo those sentiments. I went down to congratulate Peter today in person and to give him a hug. It's a tough job, like Carl said, and he did an outstanding job. He's an excellent guy. He was very responsible, and he served the town very well. And we wish him success and a happy retirement. We'd like to say thank you very much for your hard work.
I'd just like to say that Mr. Saliano, you're Saliano, he's Saliano, was the first department head that came down to supervisor's office to meet with me and welcome me to the town board and answer my questions that I might have. And so I'm the new person here, but I do wish him everything, all the best in his retirement. It's a big move to retire. It's a big decision. And I think he deserves to find a lot of fun things to do during his retirement.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Smalley, second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. As with that retirement, we will be doing interviews for someone to sit in to replace Peter through the balance of his term. So as of tomorrow, we will be accepting resumes for an intern position for the highway superintendent. The last thing on my list is the request to call for a building inspector residence list only. We are trying to do some other things in the building department to try to ease the backlog of permits. By having another building inspector, it will help us to handle more permits and try to separate commercial from residential to try to move things along. So this resolution will allow us to call for a building inspector's residence list.
Move for approval, please.
A second.
Motion by Ms. Smalley, second by Ms. Hagedis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to business from the floor. Anybody wish to address any issues that we're discussing is welcome to do so.
Ken Noonan, Valhalla. First one is regarding the group home at 5 Halsey. I just wondered, are there any updates on that situation?
We were, when did we see that yesterday?
Yeah, we did get something from the hearing officer who upheld the determination by the state to cite the group home in Halsey Place. It came in late yesterday.
Upheld the determination?
No, determination.
Determination. Oh,
Determination. DE.
okay. So they're going to have the group home that they're approving.
That's what the hearing officer has said.
Okay.
They denied our request to not have it there. We asked to look at other locations, but they denied all of our requests.
Okay, thank you. The other one I want to ask about is the property at 408 Elwood, previously the Bell Pace restaurant. Are there any updates on that situation?
There's some discussions with the owner of one of the pieces of property there that's ongoing. It's in the middle of negotiations now.
This is one of the pieces of property that you want to acquire by eminent domain, I think. Is that?
There has been a tentative agreement to bypass eminent domain and to purchase the property, but it's still in negotiations.
Okay. So the town is going to purchase that property?
Yes.
Yeah. Anything new about projects there or proposed?
Well, I still want to talk too much about it while we're in negotiations. There's no plans yet.
Do I understand correctly? The property is not being used for anything as it's
It's a vacant land. It's a vacant piece of property.
Vacant piece of property. Nobody's allowed to park there. No commuters can't park there.
No. It's not prepared for anybody to drive.
And do I understand also that it has not been offered for sale?
Not yet.
Not yet. Since the town took it over for taxes, it has not been offered for sale.
No, we're trying to resolve the other issues with the other piece of property first.
But the other pieces of property were not an issue. That's something you wanted.
It's all part of the same.
How's it part of the same? It wasn't part of the original property, isn't it?
It was all part of the original property. It was just divided into 3 lots. The center lot, which they weren't paying taxes on, was the one that the town took. The other 2 pieces, one on each side, they were paying tax on. That's the 2 we're trying to resolve.
I see. Okay. And then finally, regarding the restaurant at the Hawthorne train station, you were going to review the lease and come up with some proposal for the owner. Has that been done?
We haven't finished that yet. No.
Haven't finished that. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else like to address the board? Well, Susan, I'm not going to ignore you.
One more time.
The town clerk's report.
Town clerk's agenda, February 26, 2019, Town Board. Bid opening various highway bids. Public hearing. Local law number 1, 2019, stop sign on Shelley Avenue and Maple Street. Local law number 2, 2019, amend Town Code 218-68, multifamily in C-NR zone. Amend and add to Chapter 185, streams and water courses. Amend Chapter 211-8, rates for water consumption. Received from Peter Ciliano, Superintendent of Highways, letter of retirement. Received Board of Assessment Review Annual Report 2018. Received oath of office from Mark A. Rubio Jr., Town Justice. Received liquor license application, Modern Slice, 57 Kensico Road, Thornwood, New York, 10594. Received 5 zoning board resolutions, 2 for Aquest Development Company LLC, Robert R. Leggio, John Ravazza, Edmund Kearney. Received 1 notice of claim, Braylon A. Hilario Rodriguez versus Town of Mount Pleasant. And just a reminder, commuter parking permits are on sale. Price is the same as last year. It's $375, which can be paid by cash or check, and it goes into effect March 1st. We need to see the driver's license and car registration of the commuter. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Item F will be referred to the town attorney. Moving on to the council reports. Councilman DiPaolo is not here this evening, so I will read the controller's memo. I used to do this years ago, so I can see if I can do it right. Attorneys, Bond, Shonik and King for legal services, $2,886. Building Town Hall, Carico Heating and Cooling, February maintenance contract, $920. EPB Supply Solutions, paper supplies, $943.97. FRM Mechanical, vacuum elevator shaft, $2,132.50. Carico Heating and Cooling, circulator, pump and valve, $687. Miller Proctor Nichols, boiler repair, $2,796.15. RJG Electrical Contracting, bulbs and lamp replacements and ballast, $670 for a total of $8,149.62. Central Data Processing, Tyler Technologies, April 19th to 2020. Support System Services, $6,791.13. Programming for Budget Report, Munis, there's a credit of $3,825 for a total of $2,966.13. Special Consulting Services, Sustainable Westchester, 2019 membership dues, $1,000. Highway Garage, Telvent DTN Inc., Weather Info Services, $2,010. That's for March 19th through 2020. Off-street parking, New York State Department of Transportation, commuter parking for Marble Avenue, $1,400. Central Garage, Ron Turley Associates, software, March 1st, 2019 to February 28, 2020, $1,728. Public Safety, Mount Kisco Chevrolet. These are for parts. You got $944.60 and $32.80, total $976.68. Planning Board, Cleary Consultant, January 19th, Project Administration, $1,000. General Repairs, ESS Inc., Truck Radios, Antennas, and Mounts, $1,618.92. Highway Machinery, Commercial Tire and Recapping, 12 retreads, mount and dismount, $1,662.60. Highway Snow Removal, Chemung Supply Corp., Plow Blades, $2,013. Reed Systems, this is in the brine, two different orders of brine, $1,783.56 and $3,922.11 for a total for highway, $7,718.67. Capital Highway Machinery and Equipment, Deal and Sons. This is a 2019 Freightliner dump, $107,040.96. 2019 Freightliner dump. This is different VIN number, $101,952 for a total of $208,992.96. These trucks were two of the equipment bonding that we did last year. Mount Pleasant Consolidated Sewer District, Village of Briarcliff Manor, sewer charges, $2,500. Trust and agency, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different clients for a total of $3,195. A grand total for this controller's memo, $247,804.58. I would ask for a resolution to approve that.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Siciliano,
Seconded.
second by Ms. Smalley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Tom, I know you're up next with the police department. This was an individual that was going to be retired, going to be hired part-time, traffic and safety. Unfortunately, today he turned down the job for something else for
Oh,
higher pay.
so it's,
We'll
off the-
table, we could table this item.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Supervisor, a good suggestion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Siciliano to table.
Okay.
Seconded?
Second by Ms. Smalley to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilwoman Smalley.
Well, thank you. And Tom, I'm not giving you my report because you didn't have one, so. Anyway,
Thanks.
this is my report is from Recreation and Parks Department. The first item on the agenda is purchase order 70-19-10. It's a purchase of a pool part. As you know, in the Recreation Department right now, it is not February, it is the middle of summer. We're preparing for summer. Therefore, we have to buy a Griswold flow control valve, epoxy coated set, 190 GPMs with the tag. Total cost is $1,736. Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is purchase order 70-19-11, replacement heater for the Parks Garage to replace a non-working unit. And the vendor is FRM Mechanical. The total price of this is $1,800. Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley.
Second?
Second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item, number 3 on agenda, is purchase order 70-19-12. This is a seahorse feature for the children's pool. This, again, as we think of summer. The total cost is $6,025, including freight to the Town Hall Garage. Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley.
Second?
Second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I think we should show a picture of the seahorse.
Who wouldn't like seahorse?
Yeah, I heard it's
We
nice.
have it in the attachment. It's in the attachments. I saw it.
I can't, there's no place for me to put it up on the board. We took the screen down. But for those of you going to the town pool this summer, enjoy. It's something for the children's pool that replaces an antiquated, how can we say it, sea creature? But I think we get a lot of fun out of it. Every year we try and improve not only the mechanicals up at the town pool, but also the aesthetics.
I think if you go online.
Here it
and-
is. Here it is.
Go online and pick that up.
Anybody want to see it?
As you may or may not know, now everything is online now. You can look at all the attachments that are on each resolution. So you'll
Yes.
be able to see the seahorse.
You
if
can
get
see
in
the
there.
seahorse.
It's adorable.
So we're on to number 4 on the agenda, purchase order 70-19-13. This is for a contract renewal of the contract as per the Town Board Resolution 121-19 for the maintenance of floral and shrub areas and the mowing of grass in the Mount Pleasant Parks for the 2019 season. The vendor is Mid-Westchester Lawn Service. The total cost is $57,000. Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is a personnel issue, authorization to hire Ada Delora as kitchen helper for the Office of Elder Americans Program effective February 8th, 2019. She will work at a rate of $11 an hour. Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
No, Mr. Scion.
Saliano.
Must be an echo. Second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item, number 6 on the agenda, is authorization to hire Daniel Odapiero as a senior van driver on an as-needed basis effective February 27th, 2019. In nursing, we refer to this as per diem. He will be working at $15 an hour. And this senior van driver works in tandem with all the programs in Parks and Recreation, but certainly focuses on the Office of Elder Americans. And as I just read to you about another kitchen helper, the OEA has increased the amount of residents that we service with home-delivered meals. Our staff there is working very, very hard. We do have individuals in the town that are needy, and it does my heart well as councilwoman, but also as a public health nurse, to know that we are going out and servicing these people, not only feeding them, but the daily contact of the meals being delivered means so much to these individuals that are housebound and unable to get out. So I thank everyone here on the town board and the supervisor for supporting all that initiatives that take place in OEA. So, moving ahead, I'd like to ask for approval to hire Daniel Odefiero at the rate of $15 an hour as senior van driver, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Moved. Second?
second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Number 7 on the agenda is authorization for Elizabeth Lynn Salato to attend the New York State Recreation Conference, April 7th through 9th, 2019. The total cost will not exceed $1,000. Please move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second?
second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Please note, parents, day camp registration is underway. If you have questions, please call the Recreation Department or come in to fill out your applications. Thank you.
Councilwoman Haggis.
Hi, good evening. I am here not to report on seahorses, which are much more exciting, but I'm here to report again about our purchase of salt by the Highway Department. This is the purchase order number 50-1903. It's a purchase of salt per New York State contract PC 66659. And the vendor is Atlantic Salt, and they are delivering it to the Highway Department. And we purchase our salt in increments. We prepay it. We order a certain amount of salt, and we pay it over different increments of time. So this description is 1,000 tons at $65.74 per ton, which totals $65,740, and there's a fuel price adjustment for 1,000 tons of salt at 0.06, and so therefore the total cost is $65,680. I move to approve, please.
Motion by Ms. Haggis,
Second.
second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to our town attorneys.
Yes. We have a few matters today for tax certiorari matters. We'll start with settlement for not so happy settlement for 3 Skyline Drive LLC. It covers 6 years for section 116.8, block 1, lot 2.1 and 2.2. The estimated town refund is $68,000. And ask for a motion to approve the settlement for amount, an estimated amount of $68,000.
Entertain a motion.
I move to approve, please.
Motion by Ms. Haggis,
Second.
second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next settlement is for 140 Broadway Realty for a 7-year time frame for section 112.9, block 1, lot 6, and the total refund amount is $2,000. We ask for a motion to approve that settlement.
I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Motion by Mr. Saliano,
Second?
second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next one is for a property at 990 Main Street, for 990 Main Street LLC in Sleepy Hollow, section 115.15, block 2, lot 65, and that's for a 4-year period. The settlement amount after negotiations is $200 for those 4 years. I asked for a settlement in that amount for that property.
Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Ms. Haggis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So that property was 128 Cortlandt Street, but the owner is 990
That's what I thought.
Main Street LLC. Forgive me. The next one, we have a few more to go, is for a property located at 47 Hudson Terrace in Sleepy Hollow. It's for 1 year. Section 115.12, block 2, lot 5, and the settlement amount is $50. It's for 1 year. I'd ask for a motion to be approved for that settlement and that amount.
I move to approve, please.
Motion by Ms. Haggis,
Second.
second by Ms. Smalley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next one is for a location at 52 Dykester Street in Sleepy Hollow. It's for a 4-year period for section 115.11, lot 5, lot 49. This is for a 5-year time frame and a total refund of $150. Ask for a motion in that amount to settle that matter.
Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Ms. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next one is for a property located at 501 Washington Avenue, Pleasantville. It's for section 99.14, block 1, lot 79. It's for a 5-year time frame for an estimated total refund of $800 for that 5 years. I'd ask for a motion to settle that matter in that amount.
Move to approve, please.
Motion by Ms. Hagedis,
Second.
second by Mr. Saliano. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next one is for a property at 178 Grady Avenue in Mount Pleasant for a 4-year time frame. And an estimated settlement amount of $4,000 for section 112.17, block 1, lot 39. Yeah, that's for $4,000 for 4 years. I'd ask for a motion, Mr. Supervisor, for a settlement in that amount for that property.
Move to approve, please.
Motion by Ms. Hagedis,
Second.
second by Ms. Smalley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Last one is for a property located on Pleasantville Road in Pleasantville, New York, section 1.106.5, excuse me, block 2, lot 45. This is for a 6-year time frame with an estimated amount of $800. I ask for a motion to settle this matter in that amount.
Move for approval, please.
Motion by Ms. Smalley,
Second.
second by Ms. Hagedis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Just a question on, are these school responsibility or town?
Let me I was going to give a final statement here. These are heavily negotiated with these property owners, with the town and the school district present. We do settle them in conjunction with the court, and they're all approved by the school districts. Also, these are the town portions of the settlement.
I see.
The school district is,
They have to approve their own.
yes, and they're
Piece of
probably 80% more than 70% more.
Wow.
With that one large one at Skyline Drive, is sort of the indication of what's happening to the market for office
Yes.
space in everywhere in Westchester County. So the other ones are small potatoes really, but that one is the issue with the commercial space, the office space in Westchester, the vacancy rate.
Yeah, they keep coming back and coming back, don't they?
Yeah, there's a few. There is a blackout period after this.
I see.
This occurs after a settlement for a few years before they can come back. But you do see them in multiple different properties throughout the town, and we need to repurpose it. We've seen a lot of medical office space. Actually, that's the trend to go towards that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next item, our schedule of meetings, Tuesday, March 5th at 7 PM. Our business session will be Tuesday, 3/12 at 8 PM. If there be no further business by the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Saliano,
Second.
second by Ms. Smalley. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a good